Welcome, gentle listener, I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and faces of the Warhammer 40k universe, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. And today, we shall be discussing one of the most powerful and effective of all of the warriors under the banners of the Imperium, a man who is able to stand against even the likes of demons without pause. Possibly one of the best swordsmen the Imperium has ever commanded, for I would put him up against Sicarius in a second. Of course, I can only be speaking of Belial, the Grand Master of the Deathwing of the First Legion, the Dark Angels. Now you will have to excuse the brevity of this entry. Alas, I was informed of an orc incursion in my particular region of space, and had to go and counter the threat. Like concerns, if orcs are not immediately confronted and stamped out, they will grow to become worries and then dire threats. I will not reveal the result of the event, as you will be able to see that soon enough. Links to the nasty warlord who attempted to encroach on my little corner of the Imperium are in the description, and the full report will follow shortly, I am told. Now, that segue and apology out of the way, and so, as usual, for the very basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. To quote, Belial, Grand Master of the Deathwing, bearer of the Sword of Silence. To be named the Grand Master of the Deathwing is to be named a lion of the battlefield, a tactician without peer, and the chapter's most loyal paladin. Grandmaster Belial, to whom the title currently belongs, has earned such an honor with deeds that would fill volumes, if the Dark Angels allowed such things to be written. Belial is a warrior born, a killer whose skill with bolter and blade have always stood out, even amongst his superhuman brethren. His martial prowess is without style or artifice. There is no flourish to Belial's swordplay, no extravagance to his movements. Yet as a neophyte, none but the masters could best him in practice. Throughout his rise through the ranks, it was noted that Brother Belial was a perfectionist, chastising himself for a single missed shot. As a commander, Belial did not revel in triumphs, but instead he begrudged the losses, castigating himself for the least mistake. Those beneath him came to expect that, after each action, even the most glorious victories, Belial would find them and assign each his own specific penance, be it battlefield drills, hymnals, or arduous rites of atonement. Such discipline was not lamented, but embraced, for it was easy to see that Belial was righteous and his success undeniable. While fighting against the Black Crusade of Furion, Belial slew the Chaos Lord of Khorne in single combat. For this deed, Supreme Master Azrael promoted Belial to the rank of Master, and presented him with a chapter relic, the ancient Sword of Silence. This blade has traditionally been gifted to the most lethal close-quarters combatants in the chapter. It was forged from the same meteorite as the Sword of Secrets, and by some trick of its making, the weapon seems to swallow nearby sound, absorbing it into its energized obsidian blade. In the Battle of Priscina IV, Belial distinguished himself yet further, fighting a delaying battle against superior odds. After Grandmaster Gabriel's death aboard the Space Hulk Charnel's Shrine, Belial was selected to command the Dark Angels' first company. Under his austere and exacting leadership, the Deathwing continues to earn praise in the fighting around the Eye of Terror, winning victories on the marshes of Krasia II and routing the Violators on the planet Terrak after a brutal campaign. It was Belial who arrived in time to save Samael from the crushing death grip of Marbus, cutting the Demon Prince's hand off with a Sword of Silence. Alas, he could not finish the job, however, as the lion-headed foe won free and escaped, his loathsome claw hand regrowing anew even as he took flight. In all his long service to the Dark Angels, the only other foe to have bested Belial in close combat was the orc Ghazghkull Thraka on Priscina IV. Such memories of failure still cause Belial pain. Amongst all the Dark Angels, there are none who judge themselves more abrasively than Belial. To the Grand Master of the First Company, leader of the famous Deathwing, every battle brother lost, every foe not efficiently slain, only makes the defense of the Imperium of man, and the path to redemption, that much more difficult. End quote. Now, strangely enough, I have never fought against Belial myself. Not once. And that is with a Dark Angel player at the club as well. If he doesn't get his finger out, I may have to get him one for Chrimbo. Not an altruistic move at all, as I thoroughly look forward to a good scrap against him. For there can be few warriors in the Imperium that can be said to be in the running for the title of Best Swordsman of the Imperium. Obviously, all will just point at the Golden Boys, the Custodies, and declare that one of them would be it. This may well be true. So let us contain our discourse to the Astartes, the Space Marines. For there is Cato Sicarius, the exemplar of the boys in blue, the Ultramarines. But alas, there is such hyperbole about their exploits, it is almost impossible for an old horn like myself to know what has been tempered, what has been retconned, and what now is extant in his lore. But no matter the state of his ongoing narratives, Sicarius is one of the potentials in this lineup. But what of Helbrecht, the High Lord Marshal of the Black Templars? Surely he is in the running. But for me, I look to the Primarchs for the truth of what their sons are capable of doing. I find it easier, I find it makes more sense, and I find it diminishes some of the more frivolous partisan tracts that should really have been moderated before they were ever allowed to see print. And here, for me at least, it is simple. Would Gulliman beat the Lord of the First Legion in melee? No, 1,000 times no. For the Lion fought the Great Wolf, the Russ, the Emperor's own executioner, to a standstill. Nor was Dawn the match of his brother Lionel Johnson in close quarters, not even close. Perhaps Sanguinius would have pipped all of them, but there is no real light in the Blood Angels that fills this role now, the close quarters exemplar. Strange but true. Perhaps one will arise in the next few editions, now that they have transformed the setting from a static point to a moving and developing narrative, much to my utter confusion. Because when you turn a setting into a story, then you introduce something it never had before. An end. And that, gentle listener, the adding of an inevitable end, is one of the many things I have not enjoyed as much as I should, perhaps. For sometimes you want things to be timeless, to be eternal, and Warhammer 40k, as a setting and a game, is now time-limited. For one day, there will be nowhere else for the writers to go. Nowhere. For when you have a clawed horror scratching at your door, as a writer, you must eventually let it out. You must. Hence one day, the time of ending, which has been added to the lore, will simply have to happen now. It will have to. And that, to me alone perhaps, is rather sad. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. I hope you've enjoyed this brief introduction to Belial. If so, then please consider liking and subscribing. If you do, then hit the notifications button. Blah blah, blah 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 blah. Nobody listens to this bit. Blah 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 blah. Patreon, blah blah blah. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo!